Well, I'm Mike, Jim's neighbor, the mechanic, otherwise known as MacGyver, as you say there, Jim.
Yep.
And this is kind of like a, what's that show, This Old House?
Yeah.
Hey, Bob, what are you up to today?
I'm doing this old truck.
This old truck. What we got here is we got a 96 Chevy. It's a Suburban, 4-wheel drive, 350. And it has the first-gen Vortec engine in it. And I've seen a lot of postings online about it. And I've had done my rounds with getting this thing to run right for a friend of mine. And come find out, first-gen Vortex had this really crappy design fuel injection spider assembly in it, and had a centralized injector unit, and then had little hoses running out to little poppets on the end, and those little poppets would always clog up. And you know, Jim here, he's a die-hard advocate for seafoam, you know, running shit through the gas all the time, and I'm like, that's bullshit. But in actuality, on the old first-gen Vortex, it actually helps because it cleans those poppets out, and it'll buy you a little time. But eventually, they're going to wear out, and come over here, you know you have a problem when we'll start with some assumptions here. Having worked on this truck, I've already been through the whole tune-up, plugs, wires, everything. PCV valve, EGR valve, but it still runs like crap. And in the ECM, you get the random multiple cylinder misfire detected code, and you also get EGR pintle position circuit. Now, that may or may not be related to this. We thought we got rid of this when we changed out the EGR valve, because that and about 6 feet of wire and the computer is the only thing in that circuit. So we'll see if changing this changes anything. But that's a P1406, and your random multiple cylinder misfire is P0300. Now the 96 and later ECMs will actually identify which cylinder misfires. So if you just have one known dead injector, you know it'll identify the cylinder. But when you get the random multiple, that means either you got a serious vacuum leak or it's time for what we're fixing to do today. And that is, we're going to upgrade this to the new second gen version. The first gen was known as MPFI, and they only lasted for about a year or so, and then they very quickly went to the MPFI, which is the multi-port electronic fuel injection. And what we're going to do is we're going to change out the injector block and spider with the newer design. And it's a kit. It's commonly available from any of your auto parts stores. And once he's done getting a good picture of it, and he's got good frame on it, you'll notice that this one, of course there's one for each cylinder. If you had a 4.3, you'd have 6 of these, and on the 5.7, of course, we got 8 of them. You'll notice that these actually have an electrically fired injector out on the end. The other one has all the injectors, or the electric part of it, in here. And then you have just the fuel tube coming out to a little spring-loaded poppet. And the injector would fire in here, pressurized fuel would go out, and that pressure would pop the poppet, so to speak, and would spray. Well, what happens is, when a little bit of trash gets in the end of that poppet, and it would bleed pressure off, it's just like having you know, brakes that need bleeding. That first shot on the pedal, you got nothing. And second shot, you know, you got a little bit. Third shot, and you got a little better until you finally bleed it out. But when you shut the truck off and all the pressure bleeds out of the injectors, that leads to long crank times and just otherwise generally shitty running. And what they did was they moved the whole shooting match out here to the very end, which is like what is on the I think 97 and later models. A lot better, and it doesn't suffer the same problems as the other. Now, this kit runs usually about 3.5, depending on where you get it. You want to get, of course, the kit, and then you have another important little thing that you must always pay attention to. If anything, at least read it. Okay. Now, for all you fellow men out there, okay, these are called instructions. Okay, I know that's a foreign concept. Instructions. Okay, this is like Mr. Rogers. Can you say instructions? Sure you can. Now, if anything, now of course I've been through this a half dozen times, but you still always want to read this because you never know, they might have slipped something in there like a design change or something like that. Case in point, I'm telling my friend here, when you go to find that kit, make sure you're not getting just a replacement MPFI module, you know, for a late model Vortec, because the conversion kit is different. It had a special adapter to adapt the fuel lines to the later model fuel injection block. Well, you know, he's going crazy, driving himself nuts, calling me every 20 minutes from every parts store he visits because none of them have this adapter in them. Well, that's because now the kits come with the block already configured to work with the older models, and they have their own part number. So and by reading the instructions, then we will learn that. And all these little ones, these are always very important because you never know what they might throw in there on you. Okay, usually it's the typical fuel system may be pressurized, don't be a dumbass and blow yourself up. And oh, look at this, attention, or attention, depending on what country you're in. There has been a running change in the OE design of this pressure regulator, blah 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 blah. This is all important information. So when you get 3/4 of the way through the job and realize you need a part, you know, which could have been avoided if you read this. And these are just like an extension of the instructions. Am I being a smart ass?
Don't you lose guy points for that though?
Yeah, well, you know. But see, then there's a trick, because when you see a guy who sits there and goes, instructions are for pussies, you know, that's because he's already done it before and he already knows. See, but he won't tell you that because he wants to sit there and secretly watch you go off half-cocked and do something stupid. And then he goes, dumbass. All right, here's the other thing, gasket kit. All right, because to do this, we have to take apart the upper intake manifold. Now, typically, by about this point in the truck's life, you know, the intake gaskets, or the upper intake, needs to be changed anyway. But I've already been through the upper intake on this because this guy's a cheapskate, and he's had me paid me to put on 3 different junkyard sets of poppets, old style, and the whole time telling me, it ain't gonna work, Joe, it ain't gonna work, Joe, it ain't gonna work, Joe. But hey, it's his money. So now you see where we're at. You know, he's going to renew his tags, and lo and behold, the check engine light's on, and he can't pass inspection no matter how much shit he throws in the tank. So, you know, I guess God smiles upon the ignorant. All right, first step. I left the engine unmolested here. It is overnight cold. That's a brilliant idea, okay, to protect these. Before you start, make sure you have the right tools for the job. Okay, now, one is coffee, not beer, coffee. That's just me. That's optional. And of course, we're going to need 13 millimeter, 10 millimeter, possibly 12, only because I can't remember, but I don't think GM uses 12. 14, 15 millimeter, lots of carbon choke cleaner. Most importantly, I think, but I know not everybody out there has it, it's called compressed air. It's great because then you can use one of these, okay, which is a non-OSHA approved blowgun. Okay, now an OSHA approved blowgun is made for morons, which comprises 99.9% of the population, because they're going to go and they're going to blow a hole in your hand. So that's why they make OSHA-approved blowguns. This blowgun is approximately 15-20 years old, and it is non-OSHA approved, and it will blow a hole in your hand. So, but it also cleans stuff really, really good. Now, you're probably wondering, neglected to mention one tool, okay? And that's this, okay? Now, let me begin by saying that you don't need this to change out the injector spider in this truck. And what this is for, okay, is this is for ornery cameramen.